Namaste. Welcome. Let's start with a short moment of centeredness in the heart. Please close your eyes. Keep your back straight. The verticality of the spine brings a sense of presence, inner verticality. Clarity. Relaxation. The mind becomes calmer as well. We bring the awareness in the heart, in the middle of the chest, one finger width to the right. The openness of the heart. We open to the divine inner light. To the divine name, An-Nur. Which means in the Sufi tradition, the light. The supreme as the supreme light of consciousness. We let our heart be flooded by light. We can even synchronize the breath with this evocation. With exhalation, Ya, with inhalation, Nur. All light. keeping the openness to the divine light in the heart. Yanur. We gently open the eyes. We will continue tonight the exploration of the inner journey, the stages of the evolution of the soul, the 7 nafs, according to the Sufi tradition. And we started speaking about Nafs al-Lawama, the regretful nafs, which is the 2nd stage in the spiritual development. At this level, we already realized that we made a lot of mistakes and then regret comes. So at least there is an awareness of the limitations. And those regrets, now this stage is a crucial stage because those regrets can just keep us stuck or bring us back to that first stage of limitation, condemning, tyrannic nafs, or is a booster for spiritual aspiration and transformation. Tonight we are going to explore further the dimensions, different dimensions of the Nafs al-Lawama, the regretful nafs. And you remember last time we spoke about how vulnerabilities and wounds can be healed by divine qualities. Tonight we are going to give an example, a sort of contemplation, meditation on it. So as an example, it will be a practical step-by-step approach to healing after a painful end of to a love relationship, but it can be also just a painful situation in our relationship, or it can be any kind of difficult situation that we may encounter in our life. It's just now choosing an example to show how we can approach this. And then we'll speak about the meaning and the powerful of perseverance and maturity of such practice. Then, as a kind of response to a question that came in the end of the last satsang, more emphasis on the fact that the divine qualities we are speaking about are much more than personal good qualities, and we will see in what sense is like this. Then we will continue to speak about the shadows, the main shadows of Nafs al-Lawama. We will speak about what in the Sufi tradition is named the despair of mercy, which is considered one of the greatest sins or problems. We'll see why. We'll see the difference between despair and disappointment, the nuances in that. Then we'll learn about Al-Mujib, the responsive one, and how to relate to such a divine name and that quality. Then we'll also speak about hypocrisy and the modern life and spiritual hypocrisy. So how this happens in our times in spirituality. Then we'll also speak about opportunities related to this regretful self. So what can help or can be an inspiration. And then also a little bit about this feeling of regret, guilt, and unworthiness in our times. And then about suggestive practices with spiritual, psychological, social, practical remedies, and other divine names. We will try to cover as much as possible. If not, they will continue for the next week as well. So let's start with that healing of the vulnerabilities. You remember last satsang, we spoke about the fact that some wounds are appearing after different painful situations. Now we may name it in yoga vasanas, no, samskaras, and then vasanas, deep wounds in our subconscious mind, and how this can be healed through divine qualities. And we spoke in the healing process about recognition of this, acknowledgement of these problems, about lowering defenses, then allowing the divine qualities to penetrate, to pervade our being, and then the alchemy, the sublimation of that pain into peace or love or wisdom. Then an expansion of consciousness that comes through that detachment from just that individual story, and then integration. And as I said, we can take as an example an approach of healing after a painful end to a love relationship. But again, as I said, it can be a pain related to a constant problematic relationship in which we struggle a lot, or the pain of a betrayal in a relationship with a friend, or many situations, a struggle that we have related to self-respect, or whatever is there. So I invite you to evoke such painful spot in our soul, if such a thing exists, a situation that is troubling you, or a challenging thing, or something that was not completely healed. And let's start from that. So let's have it in a practical way while we are going through these stages. So just evoke for a few moments this. And we start. We'll follow these steps. It's good to start with the purity of our intention. From the beginning, it's good to try to free yourself from the idea that that situation is the most relevant aspect of your existence. It is not. You are much wider, no? Is that consciousness? It's exactly this ego that pushes us to stay in that and consider that that is the end of the world and so on. So already the whole process we are going to refer is not just for healing our wound. No? Sometimes we go like this. We go to a psychotherapist. It's just like an obsession. Is my wound that needs to be healed? Is not just about our wound, but essentially it's an aspiration to know who we are. It's an aspiration to understand ourselves in a wider sense. So then when the healing will come, we will not just refer to that situation, but will echo in our entire being. It's a healing of our entire being. It's also the fact that sometimes this focus on the problems limit people on the spiritual journey. I met quite often, people who came with a genuine spiritual aspiration on a journey. I came here to practice yoga because of this longing for God, or whatever they would express. And it seemed so genuine, and it felt like this. And it was like this till something. They had a relationship, very good, very beautiful, but then problems in that, attachments, who is guilty, who is not, and then all the questions that the person will address to me would be mostly about that wound or that problem. But what about the whole picture, all that journey? You came here 1 year ago and you shared those. Do you remember what you said to me? Oh yes, but now it's like this. It's like we lose that wider perspective. And that's why the purity of intention should bring us to that. And we should remember, no matter how painful it is, it's a pity to just stay identified with that ego tendency. And then the healing process starts. The first step is a recognition of the wound. It's an identifying of the injury. So here it's good to be honest and acknowledge the pain and the hurt from that situation. Let's say from a ended relationship. This may involve recognizing feelings of rejection, betrayal, loss, grief, low self-esteem, and so on. Now, sometimes people just manifest an intense anger, or when a situation like this happens, I would say that this is still okay. I mean, to react intensely to a situation which you feel not fair and so on is quite acceptable, I would say. It is much problematic when in spirituality people just pretend that, that was healed, but then it is just manifesting constantly there. So the fact that it was just a storm and then everything was dropped, it's much easier because it's not a problem, a burden in our subconscious. But if we carry a constant need to criticize our ex-partner or to compromise her in any way at her job, to point to her physical imperfections or to gossip about her, she's not a good lover or whatever would be there, is also a subtle way of denying any possible guilt in that. It's her guilt, is not mine. And it's also something that tends to remain there and maintains, because of this ego, maintains a status quo. I consider that this is how I am now. We identify in honesty all this. And then it's good to reflect on the impact of all these situations, of this experience in our life. So how that is affecting now, how is affecting our emotions, our behavior, the self-worth, our view of relationships in general, our future projections about our personal life. So what are these tendencies that are there? Here we don't need to stay too long in this. So it's not like, but I need to understand all my problems that were generated by this issue and so on. It's just a stage of acknowledgement, and we will go further. Just, yes, there are some effects there. Is anyway better to go deeper. Practically, of course, always Hridaya meditation will help and will assist us, but here mostly emphasizing its openness of the heart and self-inquiry. And through such clarity and detachment, notice any new or old patterns that may develop from this wound. Now, even the practice, I had recently somebody who asked me, what is happening? These wounds are so big that it's hard for me. I drop meditation. It's a person who did some time ago a retreat, and then he didn't practice for a while. Some difficult things, traumatic experience with having a child, but not in a harmonious way. And now she says, I start to practice meditation. It's so hard because each time when I start, all that memory of pain and wound starts coming. So if we are overwhelmed when we start meditating, it's good to start by, so this means that our awareness is still on that problem. So I start meditating and then I feel overwhelmed. Constantly I feel overwhelmed. It's not wise to stay like this. Then what would be the attitude? Start with a poem or a very inspiring aspect that will raise the level of consciousness. So an inspiring poem about love or about something that can move your heart and can help you to anchor in that deeper dimension of your being, not to be just lost in that story. So something that can be peace, bring peace and light in your heart, and from there you continue the meditation by diving deeper into the essence of your being, but having this as a gateway, no? This peace or love or beauty as a support. Then remember often such spiritual values, qualities, and relate to them in your heart. That will bring you the clarity and the purity of the intention to go deeper. So if I am just believing only in that suffering, it's hard that I can hope for a transformation. I need to anchor on something. And if that ultimate reality is not very obvious for me in doing self-inquiry, then rely on some uplifting moral qualities or open, trust more in peace and love and evoke that often. Then it's also good to keep and develop a clarity of our paradigms and to acknowledge our relativity. Maybe I am suffering because of course, of some ignorance, of some limitations there, and there can be a conflict, and it was a conflict between us because we have different ways of understanding the world. And for example, we may want a close relationship and our partner wants something different, an open relationship. This in itself can be a big drama, but it is not. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. No? I can suffer so much because he doesn't understand me or she doesn't understand me because I want this. Yes, but it's just a fact. It's just a fact. I have other aspirations, or in this moment he is in a different stage of his life or experiences. It's not that somebody is wrong and somebody is right. No? It's just more clarity in understanding. We may have different paradigms, and that can be a source of big wounds and big struggles. But when more detachment is there, there will be less suffering, and we are prepared in a better way to face the situation. It's in all such situations is like a contemplation on death, for example. No? We drop any expectations, needs to manipulate, fears, need to be right. It's just we are prepared. It's a painful, unknown thing there. But if I go in the same way, with the same paradigms, with the same frame of thinking, there are not so many chances to transform that. I will continue to be in that loop. I need to look in a different perspective. Then also journaling, contemplating and objectifying that or our understanding can be also helping. Then also confessing to a yoga teacher or to a reliable, trusted friend who is wise. So this is also a good point here. can help in this process. No? So this is this first stage of recognizing the wound and having a more healthy way of looking at that wound, acknowledging it and its effects. Then the second stage is about dropping the defenses which we build up. We identify such defense mechanisms which were developed in order to avoid dealing with that pain. So denial, overworking, not to think too much about that loss, or overeating can be a compensation, or increasing Facebook presence. I remember actually a teacher from here said, well, this guy is not so well now. I feel he's not so well because I see him all the time on Facebook. No? This shows that somehow it's like a compensation there. No? Or watching many TV shows, avoidance of new relationships, the fear of being abandoned, no? Building up even more, increased jealousy, suspicions, bitterness, pessimism, over-criticism, selfishness, a need to grasp even more and to manipulate even more in a relationship, or cynicism about love, no? Denying this, all these people with love, this is just an illusion or whatever, no? All this, it's basically a closeness of the heart, and all these are reactions, no? Actually, all this is about some egotic, personal reactions. We may say, yes, this is a way of protecting. And yes, it's true, it was a way of protecting. But it's also a time to drop all these reactions. Because as Buddha and all this wisdom of Oriental spirituality is telling us, drop this reactivity. So learn to live in non-reactivity. So just the wisdom of not going in such reactions. So then consciously drop such reactions. So decide to face the pain without such reactions, which of course are unwise ways to redirect the energy of pain. So it was pain, and then I redirect in overeating or building up this criticism and so on. So they are not wise. They are not wise, and they will lead to more suffering. It seems that for the moment I compensate, but in time will, because are just unwise, they will bring more suffering, more pain. So facing and dropping such reactions may seem to require a lot of courage. And this is true. It is a courage. But seeing it deeply, essentially this requires detachment. It's not something that is over our power. It's just a way of seeing in a different way. It seems so difficult because, and such a challenge, and I need to fight, and I need to have courage. Yes, as long as I am just at that level of the pain. But if I learn to look a little bit in a wider perspective, it's not, I mean, of course it's courage, but it's not so much about such a courage, but it's about detachment, which of course requires to step out of my comfort zone, to challenge my negative beliefs or that kind of way of avoiding that situation, or criticism about love and relationships. But this step cannot be avoided. So this step is essential. If in that previous stage, when just acknowledgement and the effects of this, I said, that is not, you don't need to look at all the effects or such a drama or mess was happening because of that. You don't need that. Just acknowledge and decide to go further. Here, this conscious willingness to drop, to stop that is essential. So that is a stage which cannot be avoided and is essential for the healing. And then after you pass through this process at least few times, you'll see there will be much more trust and courage, and you learn already this art of surrender. Because we look at this and it's like you are looking for the first time to such a situation. Actually, in life, we are revisiting such situations again and again. And even such a situation we are confronted, it's not that, oh, we just pass in this evening and we think about all these stages and then that will be healed. You need to come back to that detachment, to that courage, willingness, a commitment to face that, and then in time will be resolved. And in the beginning, it is so difficult. Why? Because it's not trust, because in something higher, because it's not yet that art of surrender. But if that happened few times in your life, and you just look and you see, yes, it was that betrayal, or it was that difficult situation, or yes, I was also naive and it was like this, and I was living in a sect and it was so painful, but now I'm free from that. So this is possible. No matter how painful it was, all that experience that I had, now I'm not in that. And then, of course, I learned to face life with much more courage. And then, yes, a new relationship, yes, may bring maybe again some suffering, but there is much more wisdom and there is much more freedom in that. I'm not stuck in that old way of just attaching to all these reactions. So practically, we are blowing upon the embers of the heart. Now that practice we learn in retreat, being aware of the breathing sensations in the chest area, learning to increase the sensitivity of the heart, and asking, who am I? Looking at all this and learning to sublimate such pain. We continue Hridaya meditation because we need to anchor in this higher reality, to realize that we are not just this wound. Always this is an essential element. We need an anchor. We need an anchor. Otherwise, we stay just in our thoughts. Maybe it's good what it is said here, but maybe not. Should I do this? Should I? No. The trust comes from our heart. We anchor in our heart. In this journey, it is the heart that will guide us, not an external authority. And you feel that it's possible, and you trust that it's possible from this connection with your heart, doing Hridaya meditation, doing self-inquiry, and then this will come more natural. It will be there more natural because of this jnana. This is what the yoga tradition is telling us. And here we even learn to emphasize, while doing this in this stage, you learn to emphasize the beauty of surrender of personal limitations. It is a joy to smile inside. I was so afraid of that. And now I feel through this very process of trusting, I feel like smiling inside. So it's an emphasis in this stage on surrender personal limitations. It's a joy. I feel so burdened, and now it's a little bit less. It's a little bit less. And I allow myself to smile and to enjoy that freedom. Yes, I can see that this is the path. it's good to go in this direction, because in this way there is a sense of freedom, and it's the beauty of surrender of these personal limitations. As long as we just believe that we are the wound and all that story, we don't have yet the courage, the impetus to go further beyond that layer. But when we rely on that and we feel that joy, it's some light starts happening there, because I learned to drop that. It's a joy there, and honor that. Then the third stage in this healing process is allowing the divine qualities to permeate our soul. So this is the stage in which we start opening to such divine qualities, as the Sufi tradition is suggesting. So we simply open the heart and let them heal our being. Now you can allow this sense of a divine light to heal our being, or compassion. And it's a power of healing. We'll speak about this a little bit later. So it's a matter of welcoming and cultivating these qualities. In this way, you learn to practice self-compassion. So compassion for yourself, compassion for the situation, eventually compassion for your ex-partner as well. Understanding that this process is not about excusing harmful behavior. So in this compassion still is not that I ignore, he was abusing me, and this now I am compassionate. And no, it's not a practice of excusing violence or such things, but it's about freeing ourselves from that bitterness and that resentment. So our poison that is related to that. So it's like, may he realize, may blessings to him, may he realize that this is not a way in which he should treat his partner, or may he start understanding that such a violent attitude is not helpful for him and for anybody who is around him. May he had that poor soul. No? Instead of just having just that need to revenge or staying in that pain or in a poison, because that what he did to us is his problem. But our need to revenge or our bitterness is our problem. It stays in our soul. It is just a fact. And then here, when allowing these qualities to be there, no, it's like we open to that. We see now in the world that people don't understand this, and because of this, so much need to revenge, so much hate and more hate is generated. No? So these qualities also don't come from outside. This light and this compassion is not something external, but is in the very core of our being. So practically continue Hridaya meditation. Now learn to do this evocation and openness to divine qualities like love, compassion, forgiveness, peace, purity, and trust. Whatever such divine inspiring qualities will you feel that can heal your soul in the most inspiring way. And then trust and feel how they can heal your wounds, and visualize them radiating from the depth of our heart and healing the wounds. Now we emphasize the beauty of a surrender to God, or a surrender to the spiritual heart. You see, previously I mentioned about this beauty of surrender. It was a beauty of surrender of our personal limitations. Now it's a beauty of surrender to a deeper, higher reality than just the personal realm. I hope you can understand the difference. So I can feel the freedom that I surrender that fear. I don't have that fear of darkness, and this feels so good. Or I don't feel that resentment to my ex-lover, and this feels so good. I felt so much contracted, and I don't. So that was in that previous stage. A joy of dropping, of a surrender of those personal limitations. Now it's a joy of a surrender to light, to the divine qualities, to the spiritual heart. So it's not just I'm happy that I don't have that problem, or I'm free, personally more free, but it's a joy in just this openness to the divine. No? So this surrender to the divine or to the spiritual heart is emphasized. And then you can use this repetition of the divine name or affirmations related to these divine qualities in our daily life in many instances. We have also very much practices like this in the Tibetan Buddhism, in Vajrayana, when, for example, the evocation of Vajra Sattva will purify the body, mind, and speech. And they would visualize this Dhyani Buddha, this Buddha of meditation, and then bringing that. And the purification of the mind, it's interesting, the purification of the mind, the perfect mind of a Buddha happens by bringing light and feeling this radiance in the heart, not in the brain. This is how the practice is happening. So all this purification of the mind is basically dropping all such negative emotions and subconscious tendencies, vasanas, which are related to the heart. I know a healer, a very gifted healer, who would use such names as ways of healing people. So he would give to people, you should work with this. It was like in Hridaya we say open concepts, peace. You should constantly repeat peace all the time and see how this is happening and transforming your life. Or you should evoke love or compassion. And it was a situation, a woman had a strong kind of challenging relationship with her husband, and who was very angry. And so he said to her, always when he is coming, and in a loving way, you should say, peace be with you. May peace be. And the woman was surprised, amazed, how much that man, without knowing anything, just because her was in different moments, would repeat the word peace, 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 transformed even that man. So such divine qualities can bring a deep transformation. Now, this is about the healing process. Now, the transformation in itself, which refers to sublimation of pain. This is a transformation, a real alchemy from that pain. So we brought that energy, but now that energy will bring also a change, how that change is possible in our soul. And we are going to speak about this sublimation or transformation, alchemy of pain. So while we are infusing our wounds with compassion, understanding, we may begin to observe shifts in our perspective. The pain may give way to insights about our needs, our limitations, our values, limited values, no? And then allow that pain to be transformed by these divine qualities and acknowledge how this is happening. For example, compassion and self-love can help us see the relationship and its end in a broader perspective and a deeper understanding what is relevant and what is not in our life, about this journey of our soul, not just about that circumstance and if I was obtaining the gain or not in that end or so. So with this comes more detachment and acceptance. At this level we can discover useful lessons and inner strength in spite of the vulnerability and pain. We learn to smile inside, to smile when the challenge is there, in spite of the challenge. So I would say that this is the most important stage, how a pain is transformed in light. As Rumi said, no, to feel joy in the heart when sorrow appears. To be a Sufi is to feel joy in the heart when sorrow appears. To be a yogi is like this, because of this transformation. Or as he said, love is best when mixed with anguish. In our town, we won't call you a lover if you escape pain. Look for love in this way, welcome it to your soul, and watch your spirit fly away in ecstasy. So it doesn't say, and stay like this and suffer in that pain all the rest of your life and stay in bitterness. No, welcome and watch your spirit fly away in ecstasy. This is exactly this alchemy. But it's important to open ourselves so there is no more drama or a perspective of that psychological wound. There is just a pain. So there is a pain. It's not a denial of pain. There is a pain. There is a pain that nurtures awareness. Nurtures awareness, presence, trust, freedom. Even the pain of the loss of dear friend or somebody died very close to us is not about I don't care or now I need to transform pain in joy. The pain is there and will continue to be. But it can be just, I'm just lost in that pain and that sorrow, oh poor me and so on. Why did you abandon me? Or there is a trust that that connection continues. So while the pain is there, it just nurtures awareness, presence, trust, freedom. I am embracing. Love continues. Beyond this physical life, I can still feel that connection. I can still feel that love. No? Or in spite of what happened, love exists. And I can still be open to that. No? So this is already gives us a glimpse of deeper freedom. So it's coming from this acceptance, ideally a total acceptance and embrace of that divine quality. And thus the strength and the wisdom starts to happen. And then with this, an expansion of consciousness is coming. Then new insights are coming. You have new understandings about love, about relationship, about ourselves. There is a deeper stabilization in the divine quality and intimacy with its echoes in our being. So it's a genuine joy of detachment, of learning in spite of difficult situations, a genuine joy. So then there is less fear in such situations, and in general in life it's a much wider courage and way of seeing life, no? A more profound sense of self-love, an understanding of what we truly seek in a lover or a consort or in general in life. And then it's also a deeper connection. It's a deeper connection with the beauty of our soul. So it's not a denial. It was a black spot there. It was a bitterness, and we were living with that constantly. No, this is about here, the regretful soul. It's almost all the time there. And now it's not. It's less and less. It's a connection with the spiritual heart, with that depth of our being. And then because of this, we are genuinely healed. We are genuinely healed. Because now that problem is not there anymore. We totally trust that it is possible to heal. We totally trust that there is a depth of authenticity in our being. No avoidance or fear, but a natural faith and stability in the heart. And that gives this deeper connection with ourselves, with this divine reality. And with this comes integration. We peacefully and even joyfully embrace the transformation, recognizing how these healed wounds, which were become a precious part of our journey. So then all that situation is no longer a source of pain, that memory, but is like a testimony of our wisdom, of our trust in the heart, of our resilience and capacity to grow. People pass through so many difficult situations, and there were people who were completely lost, but there were people who, in spite of that, were able to trust love. There can be also in this, of course, there are many dimensions. There can be of repentance for our mistakes, the commitment not to repeat that mistakes. It's like smiling after, it's an integration in all this. And it's like smiling, for example, when you remember a situation in your adolescence when you were so much in struggle with your parents, with your mom, because she didn't let you go to a party at night, no? And then it was, I will never speak with you all my life, and I will, no? And you just realize that it was just, yes, she had her ideas, her values, you had your ideas, but you don't identify anymore with that rebel adolescent and with those values, that vision. Change, many things changed. It's exactly like this. We learn to change the perspective. We don't stay in this nafs lavama, in this regretful domain, which is like, like a purgatory. We don't stay there. We learn to be free. We need to learn these lessons. Otherwise, it's what we name in psychology still a lack of maturity. And some people can maintain that rebel adolescent, okay, it's not in connection with the mother, but it can be in connection with police. Whenever I see police, I feel the need to challenge or to do something, or I feel against any authority an issue, no? Many wounds. There are wounds. Not that police is good or always or whatever, no? But it's about this reactivity. This is what I'm speaking about. So we learn how to approach future relationships, future challenges in this. So this is about how something difficult can be transformed. And this is so much about our inner life. No? And then, like a final advice, a realization that this healing is not linear and requires patience, humble persistence, and compassion for ourselves. It is not a healing of a situation, but eventually a healing of reactivity, of fears, and ultimately of the ignorance of separation. So it's a very good opportunity for us to transform, to grow. No? It's about turning a painful end into a new, beautiful beginning where we emerge more connected with ourselves, more anchored in the heart and wiser. So I hope that this will be an inspiration for you. And with this, more maturity will come. So again, don't imagine that this is just a situation and then we just locally try to heal it. It's a matter of maturity that comes through such a practice. And what would be the echoes of this? It's deepening trust. So it evolves from a mere intellectual belief to a heartfelt certainty. So you know it's based on an inner experience. You know that this is possible. And it's an understanding that in spite of these ups and downs of life, there is a deeper order and wisdom there. And you trust that. And then you learn to live in alignment with these divine qualities. It's not just that I did this for heal myself. It's a way of living. So peace is there, or grace, or light. You live in intimacy with them and with the divine. Our thoughts, our actions, interactions begin to naturally reflect such qualities, leading a life that is more harmonious, that is more aligned with such higher principles, because it's the heart that nurtures all these qualities, and the mind is imbued with those qualities, not only in that specific situation, but in general. This gives also an ease to surrender. Now, with this increased trust, we realize that surrender becomes natural and is less of a struggle or fear. And we realize that this surrender is, of course, not a passive, but an active and conscious choice to let go of the need to control any aspect of life, in spite of the pain or whatever. Yes, we spoke so many times in Hridaya about this beauty of surrender. Then with this also comes a resilience in facing challenges. No? Challenges are not just obstacles, but opportunities. Make us stronger spiritually, and we are better equipped to handle life's unpredictability. No? It's not that life can reserve many surprises, and we don't know. So many things can happen, but we can know that there is a commitment to act in integrity. So this resilience is there and is born from this understanding. Then more joy and inner peace, which is not dependent on external circumstances. No, it's a joy that arises from a deep connection with the spiritual heart. Is what is happening in the further stages of the nafs. No, the soul becomes more and more harmonious. This is what the Sufi tradition is telling us. This is just a stage. No, and our true nature is beyond these ups and downs. Then it's a maturity in understanding suffering. So it's a meaningful experience in understanding suffering in general, in the world, in understanding others in the way in which others, no? So compassion towards ourselves and others who are also navigating through their own struggles. Everybody has her or his own story, but beyond all this, there is the same embrace. So this is related to how such a difficult situation can bring such a beautiful impetus, taking us from that just bourgeois life or just life of suffering in so many beautiful opportunities. Now, I'm going to speak further about this power of the divine qualities, the evocation of such divine qualities. Because last satsang, I said that also Patanjali said in Yoga Sutra that some limitations can be compensated by cultivating their opposites. No? And then it was this idea that we should cultivate the opposites and how these opposites will compensate our problems. But actually, contemplating on these divine qualities is much more than just evoking personal good qualities. It's not anymore just in the domain of our personality. And this is also something very important to understand. So such an evocation is a holistic, transformative process that is involving openness to that sacredness of the spiritual heart, involves transcendence of the ego, experiencing the universal nature of such qualities, an integration of the opposites of good and bad, and it's beyond this. It's about grace, it's about expanding consciousness, it's about cultivating an inner relationship with the divine. So we are going to elaborate a little bit about all this. So such qualities, when you evoke, for example, purity, there can be, purity. You may think about purity, that you took your physical bath or you did these kriyas, yoga kriyas in the morning, and you try to live a pure life and so on. But this divine purity, it's an absolute purity and can inspire us in so many ways. It's the purity of consciousness, which is transcending thoughts, not bad thoughts or negative thoughts or whatever, but any kind of possible limitation. So is in itself grace, this evoking purity. And the same is with many. So it's such an inspiration, and this purity, for example, or such divine qualities are going beyond just the opposite of my negativity. No? They are universal and unconditional. They help us experience and embody these more profound, expansive forms of such virtues. No? It's just the compassion, unconditional compassion. No? It's not just my compassion. Of course, I can experience compassion, but then I can evoke and I can relate to that compassion of the Bodhisattvas or of Tara or Virgin Mary or Jesus. And then the connection to the spiritual heart that happens. They are not just abstract concepts. This is important. They are a direct radiance of the spiritual heart, of Shiva consciousness or of God or whatever it's a life reality there. So there is a sense of supreme abundance in them. So we learn to open to that. We have in the yoga tradition Kamalatmika, Lakshmi, that suggests this abundance is an abundance of divine qualities as well. And you see that grace. You know, indeed, we have this concept of karma and, oh, it's about what I deserve. And grace is exactly that concept that transcends that. No? In Shaivism, for example, they speak about Svatantriya, which means the absolute freedom of the divine. So yes, I can think in that context of my personality, and there, yes, it is karma, action and reaction, but deeper at the level of the spiritual heart or of the spirit, there is no karma. There is grace. There is God. And that can be, no? And we'll not go now but into this, but you know, it's this confusion. Is there free will or is not free will, and so on. Yes, as long as I'm just caught in this reactivity, I may say that I have will, my will. I have the will now to drink alcohol and so on. But this is not my free will, it's just the commanding self. Nafs Satsang, the first one, as the Sufi tradition will teach us, no? Or as the yoga tradition will tell us. So it's not really free will. And then can be there free will, or are just reactions and all these vasanas, subconscious tendencies of ours, impulses, and so on. It seems that there is no free will as long as just that. But you are not only that, you are also that spiritual heart. And there, because you are God, there is free will. So evoking these divine qualities is not just about abstract concepts. Let's meditate on the concept of purity or concept of love. You feel the grace of love. You literally feel it. No? And then it brings also, so all these are going beyond a personal resource. So with my personal capacities, definitely I cannot deal with all the life situations, but this can transcend all this. Then its ego transcendence shifts the focus from the personal to the divine. Is not just about an improvement. My personality changes, I become a little bit more pure or a little bit more compassionate, but is a connection with that infinite power. Is like a secret treasure there that is unlimited. And then it's a holistic integration of the soul. We integrate and embrace all aspects of our being, including all these imperfections. So it's not about denial. We are not afraid about that or to suppress or to deny all this, because it's not just about replacing negative things with some positive things which are the opposite, no? But it's a higher unity there in which everything is harmonized in that sacredness of the heart. And that brings a real inner transformation that goes beyond personal and mental understanding. It's not just about cognitively acknowledging a positive trait, but about a deep experiential change in the soul, which leads to a profound inner alignment with these qualities. It's also an understanding of what grace means. It's an openness to this flow of grace. It brings sacred forces that are beyond what the human effort alone can. It is a unique gift that can rejuvenate our soul and heal all these wounds. Let's say an extreme situation. A man is very tired and goes with his wife and child, drives, and then because he is very tired, he falls asleep, and he makes an accident, and then his wife and a child die. No? Situations like this can happen. Then it's a deep sense of guilt. No? Because of me, such a person said, the most dear people to me, which I love so much, died. No? So what to do? What to do? Going to a psychotherapist would say, what a psychotherapist can say? Well, relax, let go, don't think too much about this. All this at the personal level cannot really change. Well, let time resolve. Maybe, yes, in time, indeed. But apart from this, what? While in spirituality, there is this repentance, and there is this, yes, I know I did. This is something that I cannot accept myself, but I know, God, that you can embrace me. So an openness to a higher reality, which is beyond our personal capacities. And there were many people who were embraced and healed through this openness to grace, which otherwise, at a personal level, no, I try to do hatha yoga, I try to relax a little bit to forget about that problem. That problem will not go like this, yes? But still that surrender to grace, that total openness to the divine, that can transform and transformed many beings. It brings also an expansion of consciousness, because it's not anymore about just our ego. Then about the devotional aspect is cultivating this devotional relationship, no? Because it's like a dynamic living process that involves longing of the soul. No? All this, when we evoke the name of the divine versus just invoking the abstract quality of purity, or it's a devotional aspect that has their longing, humbleness, surrender, devotion, deepening, love, all this. So it's a opening to a mysterious, glorious, transformative journey that reshapes our entire being. No? It's not just a personal journey there. And with this devotional aspect, also some things which unfortunately in our times we forgot. And then it's also an understanding of this non-dual quality of it, because you realize that that quality is not external. It's not about an external God who may help or not, or is just something that is the very nature of my being. It's the inherent divinity of my being. It's just awakening that we have in non-duality, in Advaita and all this yogic tradition. This is quite obvious. But then also in Sufism, which is very much emphasizing this oneness with the divine. But even in Christianity, this imago Dei, which in Latin means this being made in the image of God, is exactly about this recognizing and reflecting all these divine qualities inside. Is just your divine nature. So we clarified also that divine qualities are more than just the opposite of negative qualities. No, we have in that evocation of though some of us are doing this tapas for the peace in the world, and there is this poem, prayer attributed to Saint Francis of Assisi. O Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. When there is hatred, let me sow love. When there is injury, pardon. So when it's despair, hope, but it's just an aspiration to go beyond all these personal aspects, no? Not to look to be understood, but to understand and to be loved, but to love, and so on. So it's not through personal qualities. It's exactly about opening, a surrender to that. Allow, oh divine, oh God, allow this power be, or better said, awaken myself to that, drop just this ego way of seeing things, this kingdom of just this nafs lavama, the regretful self, and all these ego stories. Allow me to see that beauty of light. No? So after this, after we clarify this, we are going to continue about the main shadows of nafs al-lavama. And we spoke about excessive guilt, about despair and hopelessness, avoidance of responsibility, inertia due to self-reproach, self-deception. So all this, we refer to them, they appear when we start recognize our mistakes, and then we get caught in them and we live in that. Then also a little bit more about other such shadows of this realm. No? Oscillation between extremes. No? We may fluctuate dramatically between the states of spiritual aspiration and then worldly indulgence. We may commit that from now on we will just be a spiritual person and we will never do this and that, and then again we are lost in that addiction or fully immersed into that. The will is not strong enough yet, and we have like this too, it's an ambivalence there in our soul. Then also there can be a fear of exposure, because we realize that yes, there are a lot of shadows there. We are afraid not to be seen by others in those things, no? And then brings defensiveness, avoidance of some situations. We may also think that whatever is said is about us, an allusion to our problems. As I said, no, even referring to different situations here, some may think, oh, Sahaja is speaking about me now, no? And oh, it's about me. And maybe it is, no? Maybe it is. So, but it's just this fear and just this sense of guilt and so on. But then also it's a judgment of others. Like in a reflection, we tend to become very critical. It's that background. We are constantly in that bitterness. No, the regret is there. Regret became such a powerful vasana, we say in yoga. No, such a tendency towards bitterness, complaining about others, complaining about ourselves. It comes with a death transfiguration. What are these great masters, Ramakrishna, Ramana Maharshi? I am ready to find some defects on them, somehow to show to myself that they are not so good. They also have their issues and their problems. And everything is still, all these people are just pretending, or no, somehow, of course, it's like we can say a demonic tendency to just justify the same old limitations and bitterness and see everything through that veil. No. Or there should be something hidden there. No, there should be. In Hridaya, we come here and people seem happy and seem like this. There should be something hidden, something secret. There should be here. No? Of course there is something behind the scene, no? Is the Supreme Self. It is something behind, no? It is the Supreme. So we need to find something that is not working, or for sure something bad is there. This is a detransfiguration. No? Some people may come to see everything as being sacred and divine, and the opposite tendency can happen with some people. And then that leads us to a form of ego inflation. Ironically, it's about, criticizing ourselves, but then also we become trapped in this focus on just defects, and it's just about defects. As Timothy Winter said, is a great Sufi teacher in UK, he said, to blame others for our misfortunes is always a victory for the nafs. So for this ego, we can say. No? And refers exactly to this blaming, regretful nafs, second nafs, to blame others for our misfortunes. No? And related to this, we would address a very important aspect in the Sufi tradition, this so-called despair of mercy. What is hope versus this despair of mercy? Ali, the best companion of the Prophet, who is honored for his integrity and spiritual insights, Ali said, to despair of mercy is a greater sin on the part of the sinner than all his other sins put together. So if you have some things which you consider limitations, and you consider that you blame yourself because you did this and that in your life and you regret, the fact that you have this despair, that you say, this is, I cannot, I don't know, and I cannot resolve this, and it will forever be like this, is this so-called despair of mercy. We will see exactly what is exactly, which is the biggest sin, they say. In the Sufi tradition, Ali made it very clear, it's bigger than all the sins together. And why is like this? Because we may have many sins, or let's say faults or problems, if you don't like the word sin. But as long as I trust that there is a possibility of healing, as long as there is genuine hope that this is not my ultimate nature, and through, of course, repentance or acknowledging and commitment, I'm not going to repeat the same kind of weird or kind of things, but I really want and I really hope to transform. As long as there is that hope, all this can and will be resolved. But if I say this is hopeless, it will never happen a transformation. This is the biggest sin, they say, because, why? Because it prevents us to open to grace, to a higher power. Yes, at the personal level, that seems impossible to be resolved, but still, there is that grace. So the despair of mercy is like this ignorance of the power of compassion and the greatness of the spiritual heart, or of God, we can say. No? In the spiritual heart, there is a power greater than your personal, and you trust that, or not, and that is the greatest sin. And in the Sufi tradition also, they say this is the second sin. The first sin is polytheism, believing in many gods, so it's basically not acknowledging that oneness of consciousness. And which is ignorance, is separation. Avidya, as the yoga tradition says, which is indeed the main cause of suffering. But apart from this is this lack of hope. The second sin, they will say, is this despair, desperation. So what are our solutions in such cases of problems? It's trust, repentance. Yes, I recognize that I do this or I have this tendency. It's not that I continue to be violent and create so much suffering, and then yes, I know that it's so, but I don't care, and I cry for some days and then I do the same. No, it's a repentance, and with that, it's a commitment not to repeat. Here again, it's about learning how to sublimate things. So I did something wrong, and I regret. I regret so much. Of course, that situation cannot be changed. And then what? I can stay in that pain and that intensity of the energy of regret, which is exactly this condition of Nafs Lavama. I stay in that, or I use all that energy in a commitment. So that very energy, that very energy of that sense of guilt, or that sense of, oh, it was such a stupid thing that I did, or I regret so much that thing. So all that energy is turned into a commitment. I will never do this. Over. I will never do this. I'm going to bring, on the contrary, much more love and compassion, to develop those qualities which are exactly the opposite of that. So instead of just staying, okay, I regret and I suffer, I did that problem or I did that issue, and then I see people who are doing this, and then it's like, okay, 1 month have passed, 2 months, 1 year, 2 years, and still the same thing comes, the same things, and I'm overwhelmed. No, just commit not to repeat that, with a clarity, with a power, with a commitment, determination, and then see the freedom that comes through that. Because you are a different person. Maybe you remember, I mentioned that conversion of Angulimala, that man who killed 999 people, human beings, and then Buddha helped him. And then he said, Buddha helped him when he, after that conversion, moved by compassion, wanted to help a woman who was having pain in giving birth. And Buddha told him, go and say, by the virtue of not harming from my birth, not harming any person, anybody, may you be healed and your child be healed. So with that kind of blessing, and he said, how can I do this when I did so many bad things? Okay, Buddha said, then said, by the virtue of not harming any being from that noble birth. So it was a life, now it's a noble birth. And from now on, I am a completely different person. And from the power of that, that blessing will come. So it's a power in that commitment, and you are not identified with that. It's over, it's over, it's over. No? So apart from trust, repentance, mercy, it is grace. This is essential. It's inherent in the prayer and the names of God. It's this openness to grace, which makes sin to be forgiven, even though they may be, the same Ali said, as numerous as the waves of the ocean. So, you see, Ali didn't say, well, you have this sin and then you have many sins, and it's like, no matter how many you have, trust grace. Trust grace. No? And we have this constant way of greeting in the Sufi tradition, no? Bismillah al-Rahman ar-Rahim. So in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, or the most loving one, the eternal compassion. We spoke a little bit about ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, that omnipresent compassion. In the name of that, no? Everything can be transformed. So, hope gives us this understanding, and repentance gives us the understanding that forgiveness is attainable. Nobody is beyond redemption. Nobody. So this is what this wisdom is telling us. So this includes you. This includes you. You may think that your problem is the end of the world. This includes you. No one is beyond redemption, no matter how difficult or how problematic that. That's why despair is seen as a major sin, even greater than the sin that led to it. No? I had a sin or a problem, and then I went into that despair. This despair is even bigger, no? Because losing hope in God's mercy is in itself the greatest spiritual error. You should trust. You should trust in that divine reality of our being. You see, that's why we can see here, and even when we spoke about all these divine qualities versus positive qualities, we can see like the wider spectrum of such tools in spirituality compared to psychotherapy. Psychotherapy definitely can help in many domains and has its strong points, but here we have something that is beyond that and is related to this devotion, with this grace, which otherwise is incomprehensible. No? So this despair, al-yas, in Islamic theology, means to doubt this divine infinite compassion and forgiving nature, and this is a grave misunderstanding of his essence. No? Therefore, instead of being in despair of mercy, which would mean you are desperate and think that you'll never be healed, to be in the despair in mercy, it is indeed a desperation, but you know that there is that compassion or grace there. So you surrender to that, and then it's that freedom. A great Sufi theologian and master, Al-Ghazali, said God created sinners so he could forgive them. It's such a beautiful vision, no? God created sinners so he could forgive them. No? You are whole in that. And then he would say hell is the whip that chases believers towards paradise. No? We don't need to take things ad literam and say, well, but I don't believe in hell, or it's like a metaphor. It's like a metaphor. All these difficult situations, may not believe in hell, your difficult situations, which we just spoke in the beginning, is like a hell. And that is the whip that chases believers, those who trust, towards paradise, towards that perfection of your soul. No? So, what is despair? Despair is simply an inner state, so it's in our heart, state of hopelessness. especially in this context of divine grace, is like denying or not acknowledging this. While disappointment is, understood in the Sufi tradition, more often outward, visible manifestation of that inner despair. So despair is inner, and then it appears as a disappointment, a lack of hope or courage, which is seen by others as well, and you manifest. So we are disappointed. No? While both are limiting negative tendencies, despair, so that inner domain, is considered more serious because it refers to our relationship to the divine and the faith in His mercy, or the faith in that compassion, if you don't like the word mercy, the faith in that healing capacity of your heart. There is in Quran, and then many stories were developed from this little story of complaining and reproaching. Shaitan is the Satan, Iblis, or Shaitan is that kind of fallen angel. Actually is, demonic. It's not even a fallen angel. We may speak a little bit about this. And the story said that in the post-eternity, in the Sufi tradition, or in general in Islam, there is pre-eternity. Before creation was pre-eternity. Then is the creation, and then there will be a post-eternity. And in the post-eternity, the souls come and say to Shaitan, to this, to the Satan, said, well, but things were not as you promised us. We just follow you, but now we see that we are disappointed and we are suffering and so on. And then the Shaitan is answering, actually, I don't have, and I never had any power over you. I called you and you listened to me. It was just that. I had no authority. Don't blame me. Blame your own nafs. And refers to this regretful nafs. It is this soul of ours which we hear when we are complaining and so on. This is the one who lead us to hell. Again, put this in a metaphorical way. Put it in a metaphorical way if we don't like this literal way of seeing things, no? So it is not an external temptation or demonic thing that is there, is our ego that leads us in this desperation and this belief that there is no hope. This is not, devil told me that there is no hope. It is my ego that told me. This is what the story wants to say. And in the Sufi tradition, just briefly, maybe just like a short parenthesis, about angels. In the Christianity, there is a slightly different perspective about angels. In Christianity, indeed, we have this story of the fallen angels that disobey God, and then it's the Satan and all the hell. But in the Sufi tradition, they say angels are made of light, and they don't have free will. They are just, what they are doing, they are just praising God. So this is their continuous activity. They are praising God. So angels are made out of nur, or light, spiritual light. Human beings are made on materiality and spiritual light. And they have this ambivalence, this dual nature. But because of this, human beings have will, have free will, and they can choose. They can choose towards good and towards better. That's why when they choose towards spirituality, they are higher than angels. This is how in the Sufi tradition it is said. These human beings have the potentiality to be higher than the angels, because the angels have no option, but human being has this conscious option to orient towards light, to direct herself towards light. And that is the greatness, the majesty of being a human being. That's why the story said that when Adam was created, God told all angels to bow down in front of him. So this is an image that shows how Adam was praised by all the angels, because human being archetypal. No, we see Adam again, not like a man somewhere, sometime being made, or is like this archetypal human being being praised by angels. And then we see here in the corner, right corner up, the shaitan or Iblis. He was not an angel, the Sufi tradition says. He was a jinn. He had will, just a spirit, an entity who had will, and he said, no, I don't praise human beings because I am greater than a human being. I have this spiritual nature, and because of arrogance, he was excluded. And this story of the fall exists, therefore, also in Islam, but in this way, and all this beauty of human being higher than angels because of this. And then, since we spoke about all this, also a remedy in this domain of the names of God, there is this Al-Mujib, the responsive one, the 44th name of God, Al-Mujib, which means the responsive one, the one who answers all prayers, who always answers every petition and humble request. So instead of being dominated by the second nafs habit of constantly complaining, learn to listen and open to Al-Mujib. So we may say the daf, or we may say Iblis, Shaitan, devil, I just stay in that complaint, or I can trust Al-Mujib. Now, it's not just this context of, we should pray to Allah or to pray to Al-Mujib in the Islam or in the Sufi tradition, because it's only through Al-Mujib that we can find this total understanding and grace. It's a spiritual dimension that we start acknowledging. So in Hridaya, the essence of this quality can be found within our heart. So in our heart, we come and we find what we may name Al-Mujib. That means the one who responds all the time. So our heart has that power of responding. It's just a matter of trusting. The trust, that faith that can move mountains. The answer will be fine. So it's not the concept itself or the name as a word in itself that holds that power, but it's what it's pointing to. It points to that universal, boundless reality that is beyond names and is inherently responsive to sincere aspiration. So the one who prays and the one who responds are not separate. We understand this. It's the longing of the heart, and that grace is there. So the essence of Al-Mujib is found within our being as the true nature of the self. who is the ultimate listener and responder. No? So the heart is not just an abstract, supreme consciousness, just an inert ocean. This devotional aspect is there. I mean, the divine is, and all the wisdom of the mystics are telling us, is not just a neutral judge. No, you did this and then just karma. You'll receive this because you did that. This is the amount. The evolution is possible because it's a conscious divine reality and because of grace. And this is our hope. And this is the beauty of all the existence, is not just a constant action and reaction. That indeed refers to the manifestation of the personal domain, but there is also the spirit. You are not just action and reaction. You are beyond karma as that spirit. This is what Patanjali also says. The karma that didn't happen can and should be avoided. This future karma, agami karma, in chapter 2, Sutra 16. And then he gives the answer, the detachment from Prakriti, from all these manifestations, remaining as that Purusha, as that seer, as the spiritual heart, is the way of dissolving all this future suffering. So the essence of Al-Mujin is this, listener and responder. It's a conscious, loving. In listening, we hear the response that is always abundantly there. No? When we call the lover, the answer comes. I'm here. I'm here. No? And we also have in Tantra, in yoga, these names of divine abundance like Kamalatmika. Kamalatmika is Lakshmi. Or Tripura Sundari, the beauty of the three words. And even Shankaracharya made a hymn to Tripura Sundari, Sundarya Lahari, the ocean or the waves Lahari of this Sundari of beauty, the waves of beauty of the cosmos, teaching us ways of evoking grace. Even Shankaracharya, and then Tara, the goddess of compassion. They are expressions of this abundance, of a divine abundance. And we can see the world in this abundance. And then, of course, there the healing is. So Al-Mujib, the responsive one. It's even in that evocation, you learn to trust more, to trust that this response is possible. That in itself is a gift. Your trust that the response is there and the response will come. No? I'm contemplating if we should go further and going about other shadows and then the hypocrisy in our modern life and what is happening, unfortunately, when people tend to hide and not manifest the true spirituality. But I feel that still remaining in this tone of Al-Mujib and in this trust of the responsive one, which is so intimate, is so personal. No? We are speaking about this, but then we find that in our heart. And to know that, to genuinely know, it's such a grace. No? to really know that you are held, that you are loved. You are loved by that very essence of your being. As we know, if you made one step to the divine will make 100 steps towards you. It's like this openness to the universal qualities. Or as Bayezid Bistami said, the people of love are loved through their love. You open in that trust, and the abundance of trust is there. You open in that humbleness, and that abundance of healing is there. It's the secret is this honesty, truthfulness, and humbleness. And then these are keys that open us to grace. Are there any questions? So, if there are no questions, let's conclude with a short evocation of Al-Mujib, the responsive one, which means simply to deepen this trust in the heart, that to see our heart as, the ultimate listener and responder. That no matter what difficulty or problem, there is this grace of the responsive one. Even if it's just a short, small, tiny aspiration or longing, that is heard and it is answered with abundance. Close your eyes. Keep your back straight. A presence, awareness. Relaxation. Centeredness in the heart, in the middle of the chest, a little to the right. The openness of the heart. The heart is the infinite source of grace. And while invoking this name, Al-Mujib or Ya Mujib, or the responsive one, we simply emphasize this capacity of our heart to bring an abundance of grace. We start learning about this grace that can be felt in our heart. The heart is the perfect listener and responder. Keeping the awareness of the heart. This trust in the power of grace, of responding. We just evoke during exhalation Ya, or during inhalation Mujib, or the responsive, or the one who answers all prayers, all aspirations. We continue. We can keep short pauses of around 1 second in the end of inhalation, in the end of exhalation, acknowledging this quality, the responsive one, the grace of Al-Mujib, always responding, always. Feeling an increased trust, lightness in our soul, the joy that we are listened. This sense of an abundance of grace. We conclude our satsang.